Panama coaches and so forth and so on, you must first know what they are. Because remember, you know your body based on the same limitation that prevent you from knowing anything else as it really is. Now we talk about the fact that your senses limit to some degree your perception of the thing that things really are. It'll make you see the sky as being blue. It'll make you feel that the earth is flat, that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and so forth and so on. All of those kind of presumptions are based on the limitation of sensory perception. You see, because you draw almost all of your conclusions about what you're experiencing on the basis of your senses, right? They're called the janendriyas, you see? The sense of seeing, touching, tasting, feeling, smelling, etc. You all know this, but if you didn't know this, then you all ain't been studying the literature. So I'm not going to go back and do any kind of repeat here, okay? Well, in any case, in these organs through which the jhana indriyas function, the organ of the eye, the ear, the nose, the mouth, etc., further limits perception of things as things really are. Well, think about it. You are seeing and experiencing your body through these same limited faculties, aren't you? You're not seeing this thing as it really is. It's interesting. In the East, they call it the Nanaranda Devi, the temple of the living God. But you don't see this as a temple of the living God. You see gross, right? You don't see this, even in quantum mechanics, you don't see that this is pure energy. This thing that appears solid to you, you are not solid. Even at the level of your physical body, you are not solid. So you're not perceiving your body as your body really is. And so I want you to understand that the discarding of these misidentifications with these various koshas require first that you even understand the koshas and get a real insight. So you can begin to see when you see the body differently, you automatically become aware of the pranamaya kosha. You see? Because you see in your body different, but it's the same body. Are you with me? It just goes through transformations in terms of what you're seeing. So we may come back to that a little bit, but I just wanted to get your attention and remind you of the limitations that are imposed by the senses themselves. And we're going to talk about the senses in another way too, because you got to understand your senses too. You got to appreciate everything about you. Everything about you is good. All good. You see? All good. There's nothing, even what you call in you is good. You see? But you have to understand that. That's deep. Okay? Y'all all right so far? Because I'm going to run a little bit here. Now, there are different depths and levels of the practice of self-inquiry. And one of the things that you have to inquire into is experience. Quite experience. You got to inquire into what is the nature of experience itself. Have you ever thought about it? Let's think about it for a minute. What is the true nature of experience itself? Because you haven't experienced this, right?
Yes.
Okay, what is the nature and the mechanics of experience itself? What are the components of experience? Let her in.
Cognizing.
Cognizing. Okay.
Being in the moment.
Well, that's a little different, but cognizing, we call that pramana. Okay,
Energy of the person perceiving.
there's gonna be three components.
Three
The
components of
energy of
experience.
the energy of the person perceiving the experience have something to do with that?
The person perceiving the experience.
The
Okay.
energy they're at.
Well, that would be not so much the energy there, it's the level of awareness that they have. So not energy per se. But yes, well, we already have put a couple of things here. To have an experience, mustn't there be an experiencer?
Right.
Yeah.
And that-
Have you noticed that in every experience there's an experiencer, right?
Right.
Okay. So there's the experiencer. Tradition, we call that primata.
Oh, and
You
it's
seen all of this? All right.
now.
So you knew the words, but you didn't understand them.
Right.
So what did we call it? Primea.
Right.
That's the object
Yes.
of the experience. Primea. Those are the three fundamental components that makes up every experience that you are having in any of the avastas, right? The three states of experience. There are three states of experiences, right? We call them the avastas, right? Waking, dreaming, deep sleep, right? Jagra, right? Swapna, Susuti. Remember those? These are the three states of experience. And the experiences arising in each one of these states is made up of an experiencer, a cognize, when you would say cognizing, that just means, it means knowing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not what's happening, it's knowing what's happening.
I call it a witnessing or the no.
Yeah,
the,
yeah, but it's a knowing. Because people with no higher level of consciousness is having this experience.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying? Dogs are having the experience. If they're having anything that is having an experience, it's having an experience through this structure. This is the matrix of experience, period. Right? Now, depending on your level of development, this can be deeper, you know what I mean, more stable, right? This knowing is sort of like mindfulness. Okay. See, what I'm suggesting to you on your next venture in self-inquiry, that you might want to start moving a little deeper. Because if you can't understand experience, how you going to, really go from there? You follow what I'm saying? If you don't understand your own experience, you're not going to be able to go very deep into the practice of inquiry. Any questions so far? Some of this stuff is old stuff. You've been through it. But I'm trying to get you back to a little bit of the foundation that you have to have in place. So, now this is a kind of practice. Bye-bye. This is a practice. This is for you, though. Thank you, beloved. This is a practice. Now, in any experience that you have, you can focus on any one of these three components of the experience. Any one. Now, here's what we usually do. When we're having an experience, right, usually we're focused on the prameya. Right? We get totally absorbed in what you're experiencing, right? Exclusively. And you don't even know you're experiencing anymore. You become that absorbed. Are you with me? You see. So this is where most of us are at. Where most of us are at. And so now I'm going to use a little language here. This can get might get a little complicated.
I got a question before you raise that. What's the difference between experience and cognizing?
Well, cognizing can be just a report of data.
A report of data.
Like you see this thing,
Yeah,
and you may not even know what it is.
yeah.
But you're seeing it. You cognize it,
Uh-huh.
You
right?
know it's round, you're describing it.
Right. You just coming in. It's just physics.
Okay, an experience?
No. We're talking about knowing. We're talking about pramana.
Yeah.
You can't have no experience without an object. So that's a part of the experience. So I'm saying that all experiences is made up of these three separate things.
Yeah. My
Right.
question was, what's the difference between cognizing and experience?
It's a part of it. It's like you asking me what's the difference between an atom, a molecule, blah blah blah. They're components that makes up a whole. They're parts.
All right.
You know,
You
it's a
talking
little
about
different.
the experience, sir.
Oh,
This is
experience,
experience,
sir.
sir.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. All right, thank
That's
you.
right. She got a
Thank
hole in
you.
her eye.
Okay, thank you. That was it.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I knew you weren't that dumb.
I'm like, what's the difference?
Yeah. Well, this is bad writing too.
Right,
Guess
like
what?
Thank you.
I think, and this would help clarify for me. When this was introduced before, it was like they used dance, dancing, and a dancer. And to put each of those in there, the dancer would be the experiencer. The dance would be the object, and the dancing would be the cognizer.
Yeah. You can break. Yeah, you can break.
I mean, I'm just
Dancing.
trying to-
Yes. This is like a formula.
Yeah.
You know, like if a squared plus b squared, equals c, something, whatever. This is a formula. You can plug in any variables in there. You see? It's a matrix.
Okay.
Okay? It's not limited in any one given experience. It applies to all experiences can be accounted for and located in these three components, right? There's going to always be a subject, you see. Then there's going to be a knowing process that connects it to the object. See, subject can't go directly to the object, it has to pass through knowing. There is no direct link between subject and object, right? The link is knowing. We call it pramana, right? The subject that experiences, we call it pramata. That which is being experienced objectively or even subjectively is called prameya.
And the knowing, like you once told us about people on the island and
That's
the
it,
people
that's
that
all.
never seen the ship before, and so they were looking at the people, they couldn't see it, only the shaman, could see it, but because they had never had, that kind of experience, they couldn't even see it. So the knowing plays like you said, an important part between the subject and the object.
Oh yes, because you can't see, without the senses, you can't perceive anything in the objective realm of experience, in the prameya. You can't. The senses must be functioning. That's the link. Are you with me? Otherwise, there is no experience.
But I mean too, as far as the knowing too. Like
Well, the knowing
when you
is
talked
not even
about
so
the
much
ship,
of-
but they couldn't see it.
It's more like, here, the knowing is made up of, I'm gonna have to go there a little quicker than I intended. I wanted to walk there slow.
Oh, okay.
But that's all right, it's appropriate. Okay, there's 13 components that makes up this knowing part of the matrix. Okay? And the prameya, pramada and prameya together really can be explained in about 13 different things going on. First, you got the 5 organs of perception, right? Anybody remember what they are? I guess we ain't gonna have no retreat. The karmendriya, as they call them, right? What are they?
Eyes, ears, seeing, hearing, feeling, touching.
The organs, right?
Yeah.
Eyes, right?
Eyes, ears, nose, mouth, etc. Etc.
Blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
Now, you got but they do not contain or are the location of the actual ability to see.
Right. That's
The ability to see is not grounded in the eyes. It's prior to the eyes. These are organs. They're mediums through which this ability functions. Is that right? So it's 5 of those, right? And so what are they?
Seeing, hearing, touching, tasting.
There you go. Did y'all, anybody in her cooler group?
Yeah.
Because apparently her cooler group is on, right? Seeing, touching, tasting, etc., right? And those are called the what?
John entry.
That's right, John and Peter. I'm not going to spell this. You all know. Now, I'll say there's 5 more. I'll talk about those later. But let me give you the other 3. Then you have the Attenkaringa, right? You see, that really perform the functions on these things, okay? And that is the manas, right? The buddhi. Sometimes we leave the chitta out.
Because it goes with it.
Right. Okay. So, and that makes 3, right? So here you have a total of 13, right? Now, of course, then you have the organs of action, right? These are called the tamandriyas. 5 of them too. The hand, right?
Yeah. The
Right.
the
Feet,
yeah.
right? There you
All
go.
those other things.
Right, these are the,
that-
this is what you
that
act
operate,
with.
yeah.
You act through these. These are, you create karma through them, you see? And that's just textbook stuff. We're not even gonna talk about those. Those are not included necessarily here, although they will become a part of your practice of inquiry. Okay, so now, again, this experience, you know, is consciousness itself, right? Right? And knowing is the instrument through which consciousness flows in order to have experience, right? But these are the matrix of experiences. So the eyes, so you will see through the eyes and you will have the experience of some object. That's mostly mind's function. Okay? But then the Buddha is going to have a say-so on what it is. It will label it. This is a pavilion. This is a chair. Blah, blah, blah. It will make the judgment. It is good. It is bad, and so forth and so on. And ahankara is what organizes the whole experiences into a singularity, a me. It's called something have to be having experience. You know what I mean? So it's the I component. I see this, right? But it's always I see this. Pramata, Pramana, Prameya. I see this, I hear that. You know what I mean? This is good, this is bad, I like it. This produces your vasanas. Because it determines what I like, what I don't like. You see, the tongue don't know. You see my point?
Right.
It's not sentient, right? This is what determines what you like and what you don't like, and so forth and so on. And you all can begin to see how the psychology and the metaphysics begin to flow from here. Y'all all right?
Yeah.
Now, does that help, Roger Rivera, a little bit?
So what the chitta?
The chitta is like memories.
Yeah, yeah. The
Right.
store.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so it doesn't. It's just like
It
in her.
stores.
It just
It
just
just
stores.
stores. But then again, you see, the booty will check on memory. It'll go and look back and see whether did I like it last time. You see, but it's a Buddhic operation. It's included in it. Sometimes in Santma we set it aside, but you won't see it set aside in Vedanta, Chavaism, and any other traditions. Santma is unique in that respect. It stands it out at the fourth function. You know what I mean? Right? That's how you're having the continuity of being who you feel you are, because of chitta. You know? Because
When you wake up tomorrow.
you remember, that's how you know that, well, this state is different from the dream state. in the Suzuki state because I remember having been awake before I went to sleep. Shit done. You know, it's operating. So now, I'm just setting up the practice, okay? So it takes a minute here, and then we're gonna open up for some questions. So, what is this next level and depth of the practice of self-inquiry? Now, remember I said that, and here I'm gonna call this grammata P1, grammata P2, the object P3, okay? And we already said that for most of us, when we have experience, you're really not experiencing the upper two pieces of the experience. You're only experiencing an object. You're completely absorbing the object. You don't forget about yourself. You don't even know you exist, right? Right? You don't know that you know anything. You follow me? You're just completely absorbed, right? That has to be overcome. You see? That's the whole purpose of Viveka, Virajya, so forth and so on, is to break this automatic absorption in the object of your own experiences. We get completely absorbed in that, to the point that you remain unconscious of even the rest of the experience that you have at that given time. Does that make sense? Do you notice that in yourself? Okay, good. Now, when you're totally absorbed in that, we're saying that you have become the object. We call that pramata, prameya. This is when the experiencer is fused in the object. You become the object. Are you with me? Literally. You see? Totally absorbed. You see?
Like being absorbed in the movie, you become that character.
You can, that's right. That's where that identification with the object comes in. You see? I am my body. I am the chair. I'm my money. Whatever it is,
That's me.
it becomes you. You become that. You become totally fused with the object in your experience as being you. You see? The experiencer. You lose the experience of the being the experiencer in the one who knows what is being experienced. Gone. Okay? So the first thing is that you got to be able to break free from and out of that kind of profound absorption. You got to stand back, so to speak, from the object. You see? The next phase is, and this is the one that you're going to probably practice. You probably have to practice this in order to even break this. This is the practice where we call this pramata, pramana. Here is where your identification is with the knowing. Just pure knowing. So I want to emphasize this a little bit, because this is really key. The last one, of course, is what we call pramata, pramata. Sanskrit, this is how it is. And once you get there, you can break free, and then you have what they call param pramata. This will be your witnessing state a little bit. You see? That's the line. You see? Now, I'm not going to get too much into that. I want to draw your attention to this here. Now, what you have to practice on your days is starts first with the senses. This is interesting. So you sit quietly, eyes closed somewhere, right? And you focus in on these hearing. Just hearing. To know what you are, one, hearing. Just sitting quiet. Not analyzing what you're hearing, not labeling it, leave the buddhi out of that. You see? Just knowing and noting, I should say noting.
Yeah.
Noting, particular level. Noting what you're hearing. And you may use a little buddhi, you know bird chirp, pipe humming. But you don't go into it. You don't go into it, make up a story about it, you don't label it, you don't turn it into good, bad, that's a badass bird out there chirping, you know what I mean? What kind of bird is it? I mean, you don't go into that. You just note simply bird chirp. That just helps you to discern the distinction between the sounds that are arising. You see, you don't get stuck in any one of them either. You just know. You're trying to know. You're trying to know what you're hearing. You're trying to know that you are hearing. See, you are hearing and you don't even know you're hearing. Or not hearing. You see my point?
Is this
So-
what the new psychology is labeling mindfulness?
Mindfulness is, yes, new psychologists call it mindfulness. But mindfulness itself is way older than new psychology. It's Buddhist practice. It's called Vipassana. You see? But it is mindfulness in the truest sense. See, what they're practicing a lot of time is mindfulness plus analyzing. That's not it. It is just, in Zen, beloved, we call it bare attention. Paying bare attention to the spectrums of sensory phenomena that makes up the experience, right? Because again, what is your experience made of? Seeing, touching, tasting, feeling, smelling. All right, you need to know, you need to practice and develop the ability to know when all five of those are going on. So at the first part of the contemplation, now you're just contemplating, noticing the sounds that you are hearing. Because each one of these senses has an object, right? The object of hearing is sound. Right? You see? And I want you to notice you're not in control of the senses at all. You see? If I see, you don't decide to hear that. You didn't decide. Right?
It just happened.
Right. You may not know what it is, you may be remembering, but you certainly didn't decide. And when you look at something, you don't decide that either. You don't decide to see. You see. Even if you say, well, I want to see this, and you look away, you still see something that you didn't decide to see. You see my point? Right? You open your eyes, you see, that's it. No decision. Ego is not involved. You see? So we want to keep that out. Now, I'm not doing such a good job, but maybe y'all can split into coolers or get together and really process this here. So, okay, now, after you do that a while, you see, and you go to the next sense, right? And that may be smell. See what you smell. Know when you're smelling. Know what you're smelling. When you're smelling, know and notice you're smelling. You don't have to get into it. This is good. This is nice. No. Just notice it. And you may not be smelling anything, but notice that too. You see? But as you focus more and more and concentrate better and better, you pick up more and more subtle odor phenomena going on around you. It's just like with hearing. The more you focus, the more you able to pick up little things. And things are changing, you see. Cars are going by, plane will fly over, you see. Train, whatever it is, you see, you bark. No bark. No, that was the fox.
Sound and a smell.
Right. Touch or feel, I mean feeling in that sense of the word, right? So we know that smell, let me just put it as odor, right? That's the object of smell. Touch, you know what I mean? Obviously, this, probably should put this over here. But this is gross objects. It could be more than that. This is a hard one. But let me just leave this alone. You all know the object of touch is something. So now you're still sitting. You have not even moved. You're still in your asana. See, in Hatha Yoga, if you ever study Hatha Yoga, beyond what you see on Channel 11, you will find that Hatha Yoga comes out of a tradition, and it's the scripture that governs the practice of authentic Hatha Yoga. It's called Hatha Yoga Padika. And Hatha Yoga Padika is more related to Shaivism, you see, than it is to Patanjali system. And the practice of asanas. But even in Patanjali, you'll see asanas, right? But you don't see Patanjali abbreviates it. Patanjali Yoga Sutra is an abbreviation. Because it'll say Ahimsa, but it ain't gonna tell you nothing about how to do Ahimsa and all of that, right? It'll say Satya, but it ain't gonna tell you how to do that either. It'll just tell you, these are the things that makes up the process. But it's an abbreviation. It's a shorthand. You follow me? It was written just to kind of remind people, you know what I mean? But you see, it didn't go into depth. The Hatha Yoga Bhadika goes into depth, you see. And that's what asana, that's the purpose of asana, you see. You want to be able to hold that asana, you need, for a sufficient amount of time to travel through all of this that we're doing here, right? So I don't know, you know, it depends on your ability to sit. You may budget a time. Let's say if you're going to sit for an hour, maybe an hour and a half or something, maybe you do, I don't know, maybe you do 15 minutes, 15 minutes. This is not formal practice, you all know that, right? Maybe you could bring 15 minutes and things, whatever works for your body. All right, so here now, you turn your inquiry into knowing what you're feeling into the body. The body, the skin is the organ of feeling, right? Right? Your skin. And so whatever your skin is touching, that's what you're noticing. Now if you're sitting in your asana, then you notice what are you feeling in the body, you see? You know, pain, yeah, okay, good. You feel the pressure of the buttocks against the chair right there. You're knowing, you're not evaluating, you're not making up a story about it. You gotta stay out of that evaluating and story making. You see my point? Just bear attention. Notice. An itch arises, you notice that too. You see? A parchness in the throat, you notice that too. You notice what you are feeling in the body and with the body. You follow me? You feel even your hands resting on your leg. You notice that too. You want to notice and know what you're feeling without commentary. You see? Taste. You're sitting in the sauna and there's a taste in your mouth. Your taste, what you taste is also moving. See, what you begin to see is the movement of all of this. You see? How you're always hearing, what you're hearing is constantly rising, staying, and moving. That's the nature of your experience. It's always changing. You see? And so it is with taste, you see? Sometimes you'll get a sweet taste, a sour taste, maybe so forth and so on, but know what taste you are experiencing. Number 5, see. And you know that the object can see in its forms, etc. So even with your eyes closed, notice what you're seeing. Because even when your eyes are closed, don't mean you're not seeing. You're seeing, if nothing else, you're seeing darkness. Notice the changes going on in the darkness. Just notice it. You see? It's a relaxed thing you're doing. It's not that grinding and efforting. You know, you just relax, you see? And you are just knowing what you're seeing. See, you see, and you don't even know what you saw. You don't even remember seeing it. You hear, but you didn't know what you was hearing, and you don't even remember that. Did I hear that? You did. You see, you don't know what you are experiencing, even at the level of gross experiencing through the 5 physical senses. Because rather than knowing what you experience, you make up shit about it and replace the actual experience with your narrative. Right? Is that about right?
Like you do about everything.
Does cognizing or knowing have attention as a component?
Attention is what makes it possible.
It's a vehicle.
Yeah. You see, it's a direction of attention. It is the application of attention that gives you knowledge. Right. That's why in Zen, they call it bare attention. Attention without narratives, without stories, without evaluations, just bare, stripped down. You see? Clean, pure. Now I must tell you, this gets addictive because it feels. I mean, really, you see, I used to try to preface my formal practice with this, but I had to stop that because I could never get to the formal practice. I sit all this damn time, you know. So I don't recommend. I mean, this goes well with the day you set aside. You know what I mean? The day you set aside. And so as you practice this in your asana, you see, and over time, you become capable of knowing it, what you're seeing, knowing what you taste and smelling, without having to be impossible. Just moving around, you know. The Buddha says that you can tell his savakas, his big fools, because they always know what they're doing. See, this is what is being done. When we talk about, this is what you are doing all the time, and you're not deciding that. You're being done. This is what is being done to you. See my point?
Those are your experiences.
But for a moment, let's leave Isvara and God out of this, okay? But this is what you are doing. In the Jagrat Avastha, in the waking state, and in the dream state, this is what you do. And you're not doing it by choice. This is the universe doing you. Feels like you do it, true. But it only feels that way because you don't know who's doing it. Right? You see. So, on your retreat day, you might want to set aside, or thread it throughout the day. I don't know. I mean, everybody can find their own way. But I think you will find it very, very interesting. Very interesting. Now, let me say something about these senses, because again, you got to respect what God has given you. You see, because sometimes we start reading this stuff, we get so arrogant. Oh, you know, this body, it just filled. You know what I mean? That's all right. But in the beginning. But sooner or later, you got to clean that up. You see my point? You see. And you got to develop respect for your faculties. You see? You got to appreciate the gift of these faculties, because they are gifts. And Shaivism, they're deified. We give them names of devas, goddesses and gods. If you know something about African cosmology, what do you think Heru is? You see? Other than a deification of the sense of seeing. Right? Sight. It's worshipful. You know what I mean? They're beautiful. You see my point? Worthy of your respect. You see? They're great gifts. They're miraculous gifts, because in quantum mechanics we know that phenomena that is going on and the waking state realm of experience is made up of quarks and leptons and blah, 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 right? Everybody understands the argument of quantum, right? That there's just pure energy, swirls of energy, light, theory, string theory, blah, 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 right? And when the modernists take this in, it converts this play of energy and strings and quarks and leptons and blah, 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 and turn it into a tree. That's beautiful. Your senses convert raw phenomena into something beautiful.
Getting dizzy.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful? It takes whirling energy and atoms that has no color, has no mass, no dimension, no qualities, bring them through the senses and turn it into a tree. And so part of the practice is you got to learn how now to use these faculties at the level where you can experience beauty.
And it made me too.
That's the insight. That's exactly the insight. When you see that beautiful tree, and you know how it came into existence because of these gifts that has come from the Isvara, or whatever you want to call it, right? You realize in that moment that the same thing and process that made that tree made your legs and hands, made you too. You see? And you feel an automatic wonder, joy. Someone knows what I'm talking about exactly, right? You see? And there's a kinship now, you know? And you take the rose and now you inhale the eyes. And you realize, ain't we pretty? Ain't we some rose, me and you rose, ain't we some? Senses is great now. So part of your practice then should include at least once, I would even say you all are a little bit more advanced, at least twice a day, fire and beauty. And so, you see, take 5 minutes, look at a tree and connect. Or look at the sky, look at a sunset. You know, watch a bird on the, you know what I mean? Hear a wave crashing into the seashore. You know? Hear the laughter of a child. You know what I mean? See if you can see the beauty. That's the highest use. You see? You want to retrain. You want to see. You're seeing, but you don't know what you're seeing is beautiful. Not knowing that what you are seeing and hearing and tasting and smelling is beautiful, you don't respond to it as such. Are you with me? Yeah. You having a negative experience through your senses, right? It's fucked up. It's all messed up. You asshole. You see? Got no skill. Gotta take skill. Seeing beauty takes skill. You gotta know it. Right? Recognize it. We call that pratyabhijana. Recognition. Pratyabhijana. Because we hear often that God is being described as omnipotent, omnipresent, you see, so forth and so on. That's true. But all of that equals beauty. God is beautiful. If you would ask me what is the defining characteristic of God, I would say beauty. It's the beautiful. You see? It's the source of beauty. And it's always possible for us to have that experience because everything that exists is God. Even those strings that makes up a subatomic phenomenon, that's also a manifestation, you see? But if you can't see God in that which is manifest, then you have no God realization. You follow me? Because that's the ultimate realization of God, is the realization of beauty in every form, shape that it has manifested itself. See, when we say you see God in everything, you know what I mean? That's just, we don't even know what we're talking about. I mean, it's just some shit we heard, you know? Because you ain't seeing, you see my point? You don't even know how to see God in everything because you don't know how to see. You don't know how to hear. See, this is the problem. You don't know how to see, you don't know how to hear, you don't know how to touch, you don't know how to smell, you don't know how to taste. So,
Word covers it all.
you don't even know how to have an experience. I mean, experiences are coming, but you don't know what, you understand?
Just taking it for granted.
Yeah, well, not even that.
Not
You
even
are unaware of
unconscious,
it,
right.
totally unconscious of it, you see. It wouldn't be so bad if you knew it and took it for granted, which I doubt you would ever do if you knew it. You follow what I'm saying? If you knew it, you would embrace it. You would namaste that. The reality, because you don't even know it. Because you don't know what you're hearing when you hear it. You get trapped up in stories made up in the mind about it. The narrative that you bring to experience wipes out experience, don't you think? Right? So you all done
It
narrate
makes
it out.
suffering.
Yeah, it
That's
is
what
suffering.
we do.
Yeah.
We make suffering
Yeah.
with it.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
Suffering is the misuse of this gift. That's what suffering is. You see, so if you suffering, and you know, if you are always agitated, suffering, and Shaivism we call kashoba, always agitated, or the kleshas as they call it in Buddhism, then you know you don't know how to use your stuff. You see? So, in addition to this, I suggest that you try to make for yourself at least 2 attempts to have the experience of beauty. Try to see beauty on your day that you set aside. You see? For the sake of practicing and perfecting your spirituality. Any questions? This is the beginning. We're not going to stay here all day, but we can't ever miss an opportunity to really, you know, have these occasions when we really can get together and really explore some things. But any questions about this level of the practice of inquiry? Ultimately, you see, you will be practicing the inquiry into the beauty. You see, but it starts here. And really see, and really appreciate these senses. They're miraculous. I mean, what else would you call it? How could you turn a play of light and data into a rose? That's your experience, you see? That beauty, that whatever attracted you to Shirley, that beauty in her, your senses created that beautiful image that you have of her. Without your senses, you wouldn't see it. She'd just be whirling electrons, bytes, data. You see? And you wouldn't want to lay with that on any Friday night. You understand what I'm saying? You should get on your knees and thank you eyes, thank you ears, thank you senses. It's beautiful. Absolutely profound. You see? Absolutely profound. You see? Now you've made peace with that stuff. They're no longer your enemy. There's no war no more. You know how to make right use of it. You use your senses to create beauty. You see my point? It's something. It is really, truly something when you get it. Any questions about anything? I know this has not been in any particular great depth, but hopefully it's given you a different perspective on some of these things. And that it can certainly change how you are experiencing your own experiences. Yes.
Because it's humbling.
Derek?
What it says to me is that I'm if I can't even know what I'm seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, then I can't know anything about anything else or anybody else. And to do that is a gross.
You can have you can have the experience, but you're not having the whole experience because it doesn't include any knowledge.
Right.
You see, you just.
But it won't the outcome then be the same? It'll be the conclusion will be faulty because I started.
You don't probably when you ain't make a conclusion, you just go from one absorbed condition to the next absorbed condition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's making up shit.
But that's what.
Yeah, making up stuff. But you won't even have much time.
But I mean, but then it, you know, to feel or think. I mean, it's like, okay, I can't do this. I can't do anything.
Well, here's the things here. Now that you asked that, we'd have to really take our time with this. Because you're really talking about the origins of ignorance. How did you become ignorant, right? Or the causes of it.
And staying there.
But so, in Vedanta, we talk about the Avarana, right? And Vichara, right? As being the two fundamental sources and causes of the will that call ignorance, right? In some sense, that's obviously true, but it's not. We can go deeper than that. And we have to travel into a different system, you know, for that. But at the risk of perhaps confusing you, I'm going to make that attempt because if the question arose, apparently it deserves an answer. You have to appreciate now some of us now Yasha Nasavam. Yate. You have to understand this. Abasa, you know, are the states of experience, right?
Yes.
Nasa. No state of experience is not Chiba. There is no state of experience where everything that is going on in that state of experience is different from Chiba, the very divine. Tatsuro. All of it is beautiful. Nasavam Vidyate Kadasi. Nothing that exists is not Chiba. Everything that exists in those three states, those three realms of experience, is a manifestation and an expression of Shiva, or Brahman, or Anami Purush, whichever school you like to address. Except Buddhism, they don't talk about this. They approach it from a theological point. Now I'm gonna rip and run a little bit through this Buddhasana. So try to understand, you have Shiva, Brahman, or Anami Purush. All of these thousand names for God. You see? Amindra. You see Allah. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? It had a desire to know itself. That's why a certain tradition is not about becoming desireless. Desire is not the problem. Ignorance is the problem. You may keep your desire if you can prove that you're not ignorant. Now, if you're ignorant, I suggest you get rid of it. But if you ain't a fool, it's okay. This desire that arose, as the ancestor said, the urge, he rose up out of that moon, right? And put a haku and brought himself into being. Do y'all know black? Y'all know black, right? That's what scripture says. That's what Shetawanato says, right?
Say it again.
Huh? You didn't know what you heard? You didn't notice? In Shetawanato, in Kemetic cosmology, they talk about the noon, right? The pure, undifferentiated consciousness energy itself, prior to taking any form, what they call the unmanifest. So creation is nothing more than the unmanifest becoming manifest. But what made it become manifest was a desire rose in it. The noon itself and brought itself into being. It's powerful. We call that Itcha. Itcha Shakti. The power of desire. And God's, or whatever name you wish to refer to this undifferentiated, the mass, undifferentiated mass of energy, consciousness, and bliss. In the tradition we call it Chitta Ananda. Chidananda. Chidananda means a mass of consciousness bliss. You see? Unmanifest, just impotentia. You see, in quantum mechanics we would call it the quantum field. But quantum mechanics is not a perfect analogy here. And in that mass, in this mass of conscious, sometimes we call it Satchitananda. Y'all familiar with that term? The Satchitananda in itself arose a desire to be, to know itself, to experience its own self, its own infinity. You see, it's very difficult, it's hard to get this. And that desire was called the Icha Shakti. Now this Icha Shakti, this ability to manifest itself, is not like our little will. See, in order for our will to operate, we must have an agency, a medium, something we must get in addition to the will to bring something into being, right? The supreme being let her in. The supreme act, no such secondary agency was necessary to bring anything into being. Because that's divine. Unlimited, unfettered, unrestricted ability to create without any secondary needs being required. My will be done. Let there be light.
Right.
That's it. You don't need no material.
Right.
There's no secondary material required, right? Your will needs a secondary material.
Yeah.
Third. Not the supreme will. The supreme will has the unrestricted, total sovereignty to create and manifest whatever it so desires. Now, so from here, the process of unfoldment and manifestation begins. Starts with that. And much more can be said about that.
That's when you go down through 36 back there.
Right, and we don't have time to go down.
Oh, I
through all
know.
that. But down to the, just 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let me just put it like this. 6 stages down, or 5 stages down. In that process of the unfoldment, that's the super call. Level. Super call. Pre-manifestation still. You follow me? Then from 6,
That's before my.
your 6 is Maya. This is pre-Maya. It's Vardari too. Right? It gets very, this is quantum Mississippi. And so forth and so on. Well, in any case, and I'm getting to the point here, it goes all the way down to about the step 12, and that's where you come into. Anu. Right. Anu means individuated. At this point in the descent, the undifferentiated, unmanifest has contracted itself, right? And has become an individual. The universal has become particular. Universality has become a singularity. You see, individuation has occurred. That's the anu. See, that's where we start. And then there's different categories of anu. You see, we ain't got to y'all yet. But what is happening here, that's bringing this whole process, is the creative process. Is made up of a sriti, they call it, the creative act. This is how this Icha plays out. The first movement of Icha Chakti is sriti, right? It creates, brings things into being. The second movement is what they call sthiti. I don't even remember how that's spelled. Something like that. Sthiti. This is maintenance. It durates for a while. See, everything comes into being. It stays for a minute, right? And then some hara, right? It's reabsorbed. It's not destroyed. Reabsorbed. There's a cycle. You see it like in nature. The tree comes up, lives, and dies, drops a seed, duplicates itself in its own seeds. All of it. So it's not destroyed. It's reabsorbed. And then it's back out. It's just like breathing. Breathe out. Breathe back in. That's the rhythm. We call that spanda.
That's fine.
Spanda, the rhythm of energy. It's a rhythm. You see, and actually, at some point, you become capable of knowing that movement as the movement is happening. You get in touch with it. That's what the ancestor called a heart. Be it in sync with Spanda. You see? Anyway, let's try to get this real fast. So when this undifferentiated mass of consciousness, this like entities, whatever you want to call it, contracts itself, we call that Valaya. It individuates itself now, it contracts itself, it covers itself, it veils itself. You see, in order for the universal to have the experience of itself, right, whatever aspect of itself that it's going to experience, it first has to isolate it,
Yeah.
because it's infinite. It's not differentiated. So it has to differentiate. The only way it can differentiate is it has to limit some aspect. You see, it has to limit itself to experience. You have to break a piece off. You follow what I'm saying? But that's a limitation. That's called Valaya. And then, of course, when it comes back and reabsorbs again, that's through a process called Anugraha, grace. Right? Grace is the means by which the very divine reabsorbs back into its original state. That's what grace moves. Grace starts moving you toward reabsorption. You see? Valaya moves you toward individuation. Okay, I didn't do a good job there. But let me put on the final touch and we're going to get out of here. So we got a big day tomorrow. Miss Rogers gonna be dancing, so if y'all can she was dancing yesterday when them temperate, when you were singing, she was rocking over there. I told her, watch out.
She was twerking over
She's
there?
only saying that because he knows that my walking is impaired and I can't dance anymore. That's the inside joke.
So, now, what gets limited are those very qualities of the very divine. So from you being universal, unlimited, it gets contracted, limited, right? That limitation is called a mala. In Vedanta, we call it upadi, right? Limiting adjustment, right? It limits itself, right? See how that works? Called a mala. And the first mala now that we all suffer from is what they call the annava mala. Okay? The feeling of being small, contracted. You see? We're not having the experience of being universal, nothing. We're having just the opposite, very individuated, right?
Yes.
That's the annava. Everybody's got that. And it even shows up psychologically, you see? And psychologically it shows up in your feelings of inadequacy, you know what I mean? Incompetency, weakness, you know, self-contempt, you know what I mean? Smallness. That's the honor. It doesn't reflect on us psychologically because we're not feeling that we are, you know, Shankara, drum. You're not feeling that. I feel I'm just this little nigga from the West Side. I got no body. You see, you feel small in your being. Very small, very tiny. At risk, very vulnerable. Anavava. You see? And next time we're going to all, I'm just going to put them up here and then at least you'll be able to Google and find out stuff about it. The next mala or upadi, limiting adjunct, on the universality of Brahman. That's turning us into a jiva. This is the anatomy of a jiva, the spiritual anatomy of a jiva. They have anavamala. They have that in that. Then the next one is Mayiya Mala. Now, this is that limitation on, how do I put it? It's a kind of, when this becomes so advanced, it turns into this kind of Mayiya Mala, the feeling that you are separate from and disconnected from everything else. You see, because you lost that universality, you lost that awareness that everything is a manifestation of me. God has lost that. Now everything is separate from me. You see, Maya, you see, Maya creates separation and feeling of difference. Hence, Maya. It's that ignorance that results from the loss of the awareness of one's universal nature as being the nature of everything. And again, I'm not doing a good job with that. But it'll show up in you psychologically because you'll feel separate, disconnected. You won't feel that you belong. You don't fit in. You don't belong here. You know what I mean? I'm different. I don't belong here. Disconnected. It's the fundamental psychological experience we have. You see, separate. I'm an individual. I'm unique. I'm different from everybody else. You see, your whole sense of identity is rooted in this presumption that you are different. You don't, because you've lost the experience of the oneness. You follow me? That left before we even got down to this level. That was gone way before then. This is just how it manifests. Okay? It's congealed. You see. Again, one way of looking at it is looking at these models being the limitations that the divine has imposed upon itself for the sake of manifesting. Remember, all those powers, omnipotence, omnipresence, omniscience, so forth, all of that has to get limited, you see, to produce the jiva, the anu. The next one would be what they call karma, the karma mala. And karma mala is that limitation on your ability to do. What we just said, at the supreme level, it's all powerful, right? Salantriya, unlimited. It's cha-chakti, right? Do whatever it wants without any resort to any secondary means, you see? Well, that gets limited. That kind of unlimited power gets limited at this level, and therefore you can't do much. This is your feeling. I can't do that. I can't do all that meditation. I can't do all that hard work. Your feelings of being able to do, your power to do, is severely reduced here. You become weak-willed. This is, you can clearly see, as a tremendous limitation on itcha. Right? Complete limitation. God. You see my? Here you can be just dumb. That's a limitation on jhana, chakti. Next time, if there is a next time, we'll talk about called itcha, jhana, and kriya. Chakti. These are the powers of God. The power to know anything. See, now it's done about Mala. You don't know nothing. I don't know. I can't understand. Let's say that again, Bhagwan. What did you mean by it? I don't understand. It's been a severe limitation on your omniscience, your ability to know anything and everything has been limited. to now in this state of a new, you barely know your social security number. That's how it goes. All right, I think I've taken up enough of your day, and I just wanted to use this occasion for the sake of those who are retreating and setting aside those days to give you a little something more to add to that day, and hopefully deepen your ability to practice inquiry. And as you can see, there's a lot more to go, right? I mean, we got 36 steps. Then we'll be, at least you'll have all of the basics, you see. But you got something, at least you got something now that you can go with. All right, so let's call this over and let these children get out of here. And again, tomorrow graduation, you're all the most welcome. Y'all know the time, place, and so forth and so on.
I forgot one thing. What's the object of taste? I don't
Taste?
remember.
Flavor.
Flavor. Thank you so much.
Flavor.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's good. And see, that's good. If you can plug in all them blanks,
I need to.
it'll be good for you. 'Cause you'll have a good idea. 'Cause, you know, you know what you when you observe when you're doing the taste. You
I
know.
need to know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you gotta know, and that's the whole idea. Always know what you're doing when you're doing it. Not later on, not 2 weeks later. Try to know what you're doing via your senses. How you doing? All right, Rashid. Come on, we can leave it.